House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
Half a day, everybody. I'm Jason Salas, joining you once again from Zoom, basically, as we all are these days. But I've got two very good friends of mine, people that are learned experts in the area of real estate, very particular areas, by the way, I should mention. Liz Duenas, of course, with RE/MAX Diamond Realty, and my buddy Ryan Mummert, who I have not personally spoken to in at least a year and a half. Last time we were talking, it was about survivability and strategic planning and figuring out how to get through this thing. So Ryan, good to see you there. And as I understand it, business is pretty well in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's funny when we were talking about survivability at the beginning of the pandemic, we were wondering what was going to happen down the road, when people weren't able to return to work and if the shutdown was to continue. And we're still here. But the market's going strong still. There's still a significant demand for housing and prices are still increasing. And that's being propelled by low interest rates and a lot of available financing. And just an overall lack of inventory on Guam. So that's still going strong. And then plus the rental market is still also very strong. So it's still a strong investor market if you can find something to buy.
Well, we've been talking, Liz, the last few weeks, of course, about, like what if somebody said either they want to save a few bucks or they feel like very cavalier and they say, I want to just do this whole thing myself, like I'm fairly organized and everything. And we've mentioned that guarantee companies like Ryan's, are That's right. essential cog to the entire transaction and everything like that. So if someone dares to go down that road, what do they have in store for them?
I recommend, of course, number one, you use a seasoned realtor to help you with the process. But I've got to say that even myself, whenever I buy any property, even though I've been in the business for many years, I will not do it without the utilization of a title company like Ryan's. So title companies are there to assist you in the neutral process of processing the transaction. But the critical part within their action is ensuring that the title is accurate, ensuring that all the proper documentation are in place so that in the future, if there's any issue, I get title insurance so that if the issue crops up, the title company will take care of any problems associated, provided it's covered in their clause. So title companies are critical in any real estate transaction. So they're the neutral party that bring the buyer and the seller together. They check if the seller is the actual owner of the property. They do the proper disbursement between buyer and seller, debits and credits. And then they also process title insurance, which I always purchase just to make sure if there's any complications in the transaction, my butt's covered.
There you go.
Ryan, make sure he takes care of everything at that point.
Yeah, and
yes.
Ryan, I don't want to say, Ryan, that your discipline is like a dark art. I mean, it is very very esoteric. It can be very, very technical too. And certainly your expertise and your experience really pay dividends when someone's going through like the entire life cycle of acquiring property.
Right. And Liz can tell you as a seasoned, experienced agent, she's been doing it for at least 3 decades now, right? That it is very experiential and you can only prepare yourself by having been in that situation. And that's the advantage of using an experienced realtor and a title company, because we do this every day. It's our livelihood. And we've come across any situation you can imagine, and then we still find new ones every day. And when you're doing stuff outside of that framework, that's where you're going to run into problems, especially with self-prepared documents. That's always laced with a lot of pitfalls, because if you make one small error in the vesting, meaning the name of the party who's going to hold title, or you make a misstep in stating the legal description or cite the wrong map, you create a defect of title, which could create a problem for you reselling the property or getting financing down the road. Or not just you could be in the property for your whole lifetime and not have a problem. And then when it's time for your children or your heirs to inherit the property, that's when it's going to manifest itself, and they're going to have to bear the expense of fixing it if they can at all.
Liz, and of course you always advocate for the customer, but do people ever say, people like to be kind of, they say cost conscious, but it's, they see the sticker price, if you will, and they want to shave a few dollars off and everything. Can they say, I've got a friend that's kind of like good in title, or, my pari's like, okay in title. Can we just like, can somebody take care of that? But you always say it's best to go with the pros.
If I'm involved, Ryan is gonna make sure there's nothing that's gonna come back to haunt me, because he's the neutral party to does the research on the property. If you came to me and say, well, you don't want to deal with anyone to do the research, I won't touch it. I back up and I'll say, hey, I don't want to get involved, because if something goes wrong, you're going to point at me. And usually if something goes wrong, I go to Ryan. Hey, Ryan, what's wrong with this title? What's the issue with the property? Or does the title insurance cover this particular problem? So if you tell me I want to do this on my own, I said, whoa, I'm backing up. Be my guest, but don't come to me later to say, hey, something happened or went wrong. Mm-hmm. So, in everything we do, we always utilize the expertise involved. And Ryan has the expertise with the title research. I mean, even recently, we're going to have a discussion after the show, Ryan, about one particular problem I'm having. Surveyors want to survey this property, but the way the title was deeded wasn't clear. So anyway, I always go to the experts to say, hey, what's the solution to this problem? So then I can help my client move forward. So they're the experts in terms of ownership, the title. I won't say I'm the expert. I go to them.
So in some regards, this could actually be a deal breaker if someone refuses to, make use of the services of title professionals, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because even if I'm changing from one ownership, like I'm going to be doing a quitclaim deed to my someone, a friend is going to deed property to me. I would take it to the escrow company to make sure all the verbiage is accurate in the quitclaim deed and that the document is recordable at land management. Because as Ryan puts it, they usually have a paragraph in these documents that refer to the history of that property. If that paragraph is not in there, and then you try to record it later, land management will say, we can't record this. It's not written properly. Mm-hmm. So again, Ryan does it right.
So you guys are basically unicorns, right, Ryan? You guys are those mythical creatures that everybody really loves and everything like that, but definitely get the job done.
I would say yes, and vice versa on the title side. If someone comes in unrepresented by a realtor or an attorney and they want to transfer property, generally I send them away and tell them to find representation or get an attorney, because realtors are very important. Professionals are very important for propelling the transaction forward, giving good advice. And as a neutral third party, I can't really do that. I can counsel you, but once you're in escrow, I have to hold my hands back and say, hey, that's between the parties, right? And right. I can't, and I'm not an attorney, so I can't give you legal advice as to what's going to happen if scenario A goes and then B happens and C and so on and so forth, right? So I have to be very careful with that as well. Mm-hmm. So a real estate, a good realtor like Liz is essential, because people think it's about helping you find the house. Well, I can do that. There's no inventory. There's like 5 houses on the market, but that's not all realtors do. Realtors are responsible for getting the property closed, providing good advice, connecting you to resources, helping you, counsel you about the condition of the house, with the appropriate experts. There's just so much that they do that brings the value, and people only see the commission they pay at the back end. But for a buyer, right, that doesn't cost them anything. It's the seller that pays.
We say this all the time on this show: buying property for residential, commercial, whatever use, it's not the same as buying a car. And a lot of people just make that association for whatever reason, and they're like, okay, it's not the same business transaction. It's a lot more technical, but there's a lot you can get out of it, obviously, with with equity and what have you and everything like that. But there's also a lot of more cogs, and fortunately, we've got people like you to help us along the way. And I must say, if I can just editorialize for a minute, everybody I've ever met in title, you're the nicest people in the world, Ryan. Title people are so easy to get along with. You guys are just so positive and so upbeat. Is that part of your nature?
We get yelled at the most.
You guys are easy to work with, though.
Well, Ryan is critical because someone was just in my office today, and I was telling them they were wondering whether who was the ownership in a particular lot number because it was owned by their family. I told them, go to a title company, tell them I want a preliminary title research, or what's the other term, Ryan? OER?
Ownership and encumbrance report.
Ownership and encumbrance, yeah. So one of those reports, they can go to Ryan and say, hey, I want one of these reports because I want to know, is my name still on the ownership document? They do that as well. So it's you can find out whether you're still an owner or somebody sold it under your nose and you had no clue.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. When you are getting the land, the house of your dreams, the property, the land you've always wanted and everything like that, there's your realtor, there's your title professional, there's other people like in the total life cycle of getting this deal done that are here to help you, and they know what they're doing, and they're going to make sure you get the right job at the right price and doing it the right way. So Ryan, thanks as always, man. It's good to see you.
You too, Jason. Take care.
All right, Liz, I always appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching. I'm Jason Salas, and we will see you guys next time.